Hey guys, I have a quick question for you. Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? If so, well, you might want to consider Anchor. So when Jesse and I first started doing this, we had a lot of questions. We had no idea what we were doing. How do we record an episode? How do we even get it out there to people? And truth be told, Anchor, which is the app we use to record this, made all of this incredibly simple. We are both what you could call technologically challenged, and we can use this with simplicity. So if you've always wanted to start a podcast, just go to anchor.fm/start. You can make a profile, and honestly, you can start recording probably within 5 minutes. Hit an upload button, and it automatically adds it to all these platforms that you listen to us on. So again, that's anchor.fm/start, and you can get started right away. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in for another episode of the Fitness Experiment Podcast. My name is Chet Binning. I'm sitting here with Jesse Sheriff. Jesse, how you doing?
Good, man. You?
I'm good. You're still feeling a little jet lagged from London?
Yeah. This time of day I'm good.
All right. Hopefully we can make it through this podcast then.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, our biohack of the week kind of related to, we talk about this a lot, but kind of related to lack of sleep, kind of mitigating the risks of that. So this week's biohack of the week, rhodiola rosea. Have you heard of this?
I've seen it, but I haven't.
So this is another one of those adaptogenic herbs. So what these do is they help your body return to a state of homeostasis. So if you're under too much stress, maybe you're understimulated, it'll help your body and brain balance that out and return to baseline. So a good example of this is if you are a little bit sleep deprived, you'll have higher levels of that cortisol. You'll feel a little bit extra stressed. So taking this rhodiola on those types of days can help you kind of balance out, return to that normal baseline. But this one, rhodiola, there's some interesting research that it also helps with focus, positive mood. Some impressive research in the literature on that. So Jesse and I are actually going to try a little bit of this before we get started here.
I feel like I need a bucket of this, but word on the street is it tastes like butt. So.
Yeah. I'm going to take a little bit beforehand. I'm used to it, so shouldn't be too bad.
Down the hatch. Poker face too. Always a little shook. He's a little shook.
So you try and hold it under the tongue for a couple seconds before you swallow it. Kind of increase that absorption and then just chug her down. So I'll give you 50 milliliters here. Just drop it under the tongue. Here we go. It's in the hoop.
It's not good.
Down the chute. It's bad.
How do I? Oh. What is that?
I've tried some awful things before, and this takes the cake, folks.
Whoa.
But it works.
It better work. It's like Buckley's.
Oh, it's worse, I think.
Yeah. It's doing something a little weird to my mouth.
Yes, it will. It kind of makes it feel like you have a full head of hair under the tongue.
Yeah.
But I swear by this stuff. I've tried about every supplement in the book. This is one of the ones that I actually notice works. I feel calmer throughout the day. Sometimes I get a little anxious if I don't sleep. This seems to melt me out. Keeps you focused throughout the day.
I mean, you've been coaching early a lot lately too. 5 a.m.
Yeah, the 5 a.m. So you feel that later in the day sometimes.
I would imagine I've never been up that early before. If I've gotten up, I'm just going to the washroom and going back to bed. So
that's true.
Yeah, that's a...
No, it's... Yeah, I guess
it's interesting. I got to wash it down.
The walk at 5 a.m. though it's nice. It's kind of relaxing. It's pretty quiet. Stars are still out.
Yeah.
But then the next minute you're like, what am I doing up at this hour of the day?
Yeah.
I should still be in bed.
The sun doesn't come up for like 3 hours for you at that time, right? Like
even more.
Sunrise like 7:45 right now.
It's late. Yeah.
Need that weird daylight savings thing to happen.
I think it's soon.
It's a weird thing. It's weird we still do stuff like that.
Yeah. Like, why don't we just leave it?
Just leave it alone.
What's the point?
Yeah. Because it really messes it's a spring one, I think, that messes with everything.
Yes.
Right? We just move it forward. Why don't we just leave it? I don't know. it's not like...
That's the rhodiola talk.
Yeah.
Real abstract thinking.
We'll bring it back. We're going to talk about goal setting.
Yeah. Let's get today's podcast.
Yeah. This is a tricky one because I think there's just so many ideas around this, and so many things work for so many different people, and the same things that work for some people won't work for other people for various reasons. So I think really all we can do is just talk from
personal experience.
Yeah. Personal experience and kind of what we see as trends for successful people, and then how we can best try to take on those character traits or the habits that these people have in order to set goals for ourselves, and then setting them is only part of it. So how do we actually achieve those goals as a secondary piece? You just did a challenge, a 1 month challenge with various people with your Reset and Refuel program. Did they write goals in a Facebook group or something for you to see, or how'd that go down?
So that's a good question. That we did not do. Definitely when I rerun that in the future, certainly I would add that to it. Be very beneficial. So no, we didn't have that officially. We didn't write down those goals. That being said, I did make it a priority. So I guess this is a little bit of a goal. I made it a priority to aim for progress, not perfection. So actually, the more I get into this, the more I'm realizing that there was kind of some unintentional goals weaved into that.
Cool.
Yeah. So that was the overlying goal, was to progress, not be perfect. And then we had each week there was an individual focus, and then within each one of those focuses, people would develop their weekly goal based on that particular focus. So just to give you a little bit of an example of this so that it's not totally abstract and hypothetical. One of the weekly focuses was this intermittent fasting. So I wanted people to try and extend the time overnight that they go without eating. So I just said, set a goal to progress from what your current eating pattern is, and set that at a standard that is realistic and attainable for you. So if they were going overnight for 8 hours, I said this week aim for 1 hour, stretch that out by 1 hour. So move from 8 hours to 9 hours. And that would be the goal for the week. So now that you asked that, yes, there certainly was some goals.
Yeah.
I did not have people actually write those down and submit them. But now that I'm thinking about this, definitely I will do that in the future. I think there's certainly some power to doing that, submitting those, kind of holding people accountable, making other people instead of just yourself aware with your goals, because the mind is powerful. It can play some tricks on you. If you may well fully be aware of your own goals, but if you don't tell anyone else about those, then essentially you're relying on yourself, which, that's fine. Some people can do that, but I think having other people aware of those and helping you stay accountable to those goals can be a huge advantage.
Yeah.
So,
we've already got into so many different approaches to just the goal setting process itself, right? Like, there's an unintentional process of just like, let's try this action, and then that in turn creates a goal for yourself unintentionally. And then some people need to write their goals down.
Yeah.
And when you write them down, I found this a weird thing for me, is that when you write it down, you can kind of set it to the side and seemingly forget about it, like not consciously think about that goal ever again. But when you circle back to, for me, it's on a piece of paper where it's like a 5-year goal, 3-year goal, 1-year goal, and then some action steps to that. But when you circle back, you're like, oh, I actually did that. And I didn't even mean to. So how did that happen?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And it's usually just that. Somebody described it to me this way. I forget who it was. It was probably in a podcast that I listened to. Because
someone described it to you.
Yeah, it was like a goal is where you set your sights, but it's like the sight on the gun is a goal, but the target where you set that sight might change.
Yeah, I like that.
So it doesn't. You don't have to have a single focus for everything, and it's very fluid. It might change depending on where you're at in your life and kind of circumstances that you find yourself in. But it's kind of a two-piece thing.
I like that. We should come back to that in a second. But so I think we would both agree that probably a necessary step when it comes to goals would be writing that down, right?
I think it makes it real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, really, what other option is there? Like, the only other option is to sit there and think in your head, this is my goal. I don't think that's, I think if that's all you're doing, then you're not realistic about that goal. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. It makes it hard to come back to it and see if you actually achieve that goal because it's so easy to forget.
Yeah, exactly.
Like my example, when you write it down, I forget about it. I circle back to it, and then I'm like, oh, I did this and I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Why did I hit this one? Why didn't I hit that one?
Yeah, no, I think that's an absolute must first step. Because same thing, your mind will play some funny tricks on you. If you set a goal mentally and then you try and revisit that 2, 3 months, 1 year later, first of all, there's no way you're going to remember every detail of that goal. If you do, you could very easily adjust that goal in your head in a way that kind of ensures that you met that goal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So even if you failed, it kind of lets you off the hook.
Yeah.
So
there's no accountability with that, I don't think. Picking a goal is difficult.
Yeah.
Yes. We were kind of talking before this about our separate businesses and kind of what we want to see come of those things. And it's hard in the moment to come up with a goal that you actually want to achieve. And it kind of, things pop in your head like other businesses that you see that are doing something similar to you. Like, oh, I want to be that, but I'm not really sure if that's actually what I want. Like, is your goal truly your goal? Or is it something that you think is a good idea?
Yeah.
Or something that you think somebody else would want to accomplish if they were in a situation that you're in. I think that also helps when you write it down because then you can continuously circle back to those goals and realize that actually I don't give a shit about that.
Yeah.
I actually care about this instead, and that's totally okay. You have to allow yourself to kind of go through that process. It's like a kind of tidying up your room in a sense, right? It's like get rid of the clutter of thoughts and the external forces acting on you.
Be okay with switching your target, moving your gun left or right.
Yeah, and not getting upset about that because it's just showing you the things that continuously come up are the things that you actually want to achieve, and other stuff is just the fluffy clutter that's kind of probably taking up time and focus on the things that you actually want to achieve. So you're doing yourself a service by clearing that stuff out.
Yes.
But I don't think you can do that unless you have it written down. Because like you said, you can just change it. You can just change it too much. There's no like permanent focus in that.
Yeah, and the other thing with writing it down is you can make it fluid and continuous. So you could have the same set of goals for 10 years, but you just keep developing on top of the previous goal. But so by writing it down 10 years later, you can still see what that original goal was and see all that progress you've made. That's going to motivate you. It's going to drive you forwards. It's going to provide some momentum to keep you going to those future goals. and you can just visualize, kind of see, like, okay, this is where I've come from. This is how far I've gotten. And I think that's another important thing, because sometimes it's easy to get down on yourself, get discouraged if you're not meeting a goal. But if you have that long list of previous goals that you achieved, and you look back on those and say, okay, well, this month hasn't been great. I haven't achieved these particular goals, but shit, like, look at this past year, these past few years, I've been flying, I've been crushing these goals. Mm-hmm. So that's okay. Scratch this month, start fresh.
Yeah.
Moving forward.
Yeah. And that's not necessarily like being overly positive with yourself. It's just, it's recognizing that negative thought and then eliminating it by reinforcing yourself with what you actually want to achieve. That's kind of like, how do I describe this? So just on the topic of like, I think this positive thinking thing, and like, I don't really buy into it that much. And this is my best way of explaining why I don't really buy into it. It's kind of like you're running, whatever distance, doesn't matter. You're running and it feels really, really hard for some reason. Okay, you're running. It's like, this is really, really hard. But then you're just trying to be like, oh, this is fine. Sunshine and rainbows. This is fine. This is fine. Where if you would look around, look down and realize you're wearing a 50-pound weight vest, that's the negative thing that's acting on you. Just take the fucking vest off. Yeah. Right? Like, this is a negative thing. I'm going to remove that. Oh, my running's easier. Yeah. Right? Instead of like trying to change your situation by being overly happy and excited when really you're not, why don't you just realize why things are hard at that time? Just be like, okay, I'm going to remove this or change that or add this. I think there's just a different way of approaching it.
So you're saying more so that if you do encounter some negative thoughts, those are actually there for a reason, and you need to ask, why are these there and what can I do to remove those?
Exactly.
Yeah. That's good.
Or not remove them. Maybe they need to be there.
Yeah.
Like, it can kind of help you, set those sights again, since that's kind of our analogy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I like that analogy. I swear, you can, doesn't matter what you're talking about, there's always a fitness analogy for it.
That's just what works for me.
Yeah.
And then it just keeps coming back to that. I think somebody who really has a really strong media presence as an athlete, and somebody who does a really good job of what we're kind of talking about right now, is Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he's a nut. He's so crazy.
He is a nut.
He's something special for sure. If you just watch the antics and like the UFC hype stuff that they like to put out about him, like the whole like cart through the bus window thing, like whatever they're using to hype up the fight, and like him and his pre-fight press conferences and the weigh-ins and just all the antics like
racial slurs and the whole shebang.
Yeah, attacking people's religion and family and things like that verbally.
Yeah.
And how it's physically throwing things at them. That's a business thing for him. What he's doing is he's trying to make money, and he's doing a really, really good job of it. That's his goal. But I was watching some YouTube documentaries. I'm not sure where they came from. They were fairly low budget, but they were about Conor McGregor's progression through his amateur fight career into kind of where he's at now with the whole UFC thing, his transition to boxing for that one fight and the whole promotion around that. There was a clip of him in an amateur fight. He won. He runs over to the camera. So he had already at this point in his career, like I'm not sure which fight this would have been in his career, how early it would have been, but it was still in a ring, so it wasn't like an octagon or anything like that, like the UFC has. It didn't look like the crowd was very big. I mean, when he won, you heard some claps and cheers, but it seemed like it was kind of like maybe in somebody's gym.
In his basement, maybe.
Yeah, some very small promotion for sure. He runs over to the camera, and he looks right in the camera, like wants to grab the camera on each side, and he's just like, I'm the fucking future. And I'm like, whoa, right? But he already knew in that moment, and he ended up winning 2 titles in that promotion, whatever it was. Again, I don't remember, but he had 2 separate titles for 2 different weight classes. Okay, fast forwards a little bit through the documentary, and at the start of his UFC career, before he was a featherweight champion, he says in a press conference he's held 2 titles before. He's going to hold 2 titles in the UFC. He goes ahead and he does that. Right? He's like, his walk-in music, the one was I Got Money by 50 Cent, I think. And in his press conferences, his whole promotion to that fight was he's doing it for the money. He runs New York. And those are actual lyrics from the song that he walks out to, right? So it's just like everything is so perfect and visualized and calculated. Like this guy, he set his sights on something and he took every single action step possible to get himself to that point. I think that's an extreme example because he's obviously a complete freak. Well, they call him Mystic Mac because he like predicts. Really? He seemingly predicts how he's going to finish each fight. He predicts how his career is going to progress. He picks and chooses what he's going to do and when he's going to do it. And he has a foresight. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So was this one, like I don't follow the UFC a whole lot. I just hear kind of like the big buzz. So I know that he just lost that recent fight. But was the documentary like after that fight or before?
This one would have been before. It had the Floyd Mayweather fight in it. And then the fight that he won the lightweight championship in. So I'm not really sure what the timeline is because I'm not a huge fan of the sport itself. I'm just a huge fan of the athletes like that and the characters that sports bring out. And I think the examples that they can set for people. If you like, you got to get past all the fluff and like all the swearing and all that stuff that he does, and understand that that's business for him, and he's doing it to promote his fights and to ultimately, for him, his end goal is to make more money with these fights. And he does it amazingly well. He does it better than anyone else. I can't think of anyone else that's done anything like that.
I don't think so.
But I think it's just like a good example of you set your sights when you truly believe in something and you know something's going to happen. You have to like change your story. Like for him, he was already the champion in 2 different weight classes before he actually was. To him, he was already the best fighter in the world before he actually was. To him, he was New York before he actually was, right? Like he just had this, he created a story for himself and he talked about his goals as if they had already happened. And then after the fights and after whatever happened, he would always say, I've seen this. I've visualized this. I knew that this was going to happen. And he just created a story for himself and followed through on that. So I think a lesson that people can take from that in this long-winded sort of tangent fangirl thing that I'm going on right now is that you can try saying what you are instead of saying what you want to do. Or like I want, if Connor said I want to be UFC champion, that's a lot different than I am.
Yes.
The UFC champion. I am the greatest. I am this. Muhammad Ali had the same sort of persona. A lot of people that achieve a high level of greatness are like that.
That's definitely a common theme that I've heard a lot of just from whatever the information source is, whether it be reading a book or especially listening to these podcasts. Like you and I both listen to a lot of podcasts. I used to listen to a lot of Tim Ferriss podcasts. He would have very, I guess, for lack of a better term, very successful people on there, mostly successful entrepreneurs on there in absolutely all kinds of different categories. And this was definitely one of the common themes with those individuals. It was kind of that, having that particular self-talk that you talked about. And it was having that, just the visualization and the sincere belief that, you know, like no matter what happens, nothing's going to stand in my way. I'm going to reach these goals. Mm-hmm. That's definitely a common theme that I've heard a lot of. And even the one thing they all say is along the way, hundreds, thousands of people told me I was absolutely insane. I was never going to make it, and on and on and on. And just from my experiences thus far of being an entrepreneur, you know, trying to start up my own business, those are definitely some things I've personally encountered so far, for sure. A lot of people doubt, people who don't really appreciate the entrepreneurial endeavor, they don't appreciate that it really is possible. So that's definitely something that's resonated with me, is that you kind of have to be a stubborn prick, and just no matter how crazy things seem, no matter how bizarre, no matter how many people doubt you, just have that belief, have that drive, and just, have the faith that things will work out if you really have that passion.
Yeah, totally. I agree with you 100%. And I really believe that's what, like Conor McGregor is doing. Like, that negativity is, it just doesn't affect somebody who has that mindset, right? It doesn't affect you if you feel that way. On the flip side, if you're being that negative person, stop it.
Yeah.
Just shut your mouth.
That's certainly a pet peeve of mine.
It's very annoying.
The whole world is against me.
Yeah,
that type of thing. It's like,
yeah.
Come on. No, it's not.
It's not. You're fine.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay. I think what people, with that negative sort of thing that we're going down now, if you have somebody who's that negative sort of energy in the room, like you walk in a room or maybe it's one of those like, hey man, how are you today? And they're like, oh, busy. I'm like, I have nothing to talk to you about anymore.
Yeah, I hate that. It's like you just shut down the conversation.
Yeah, and like you as a person have to be okay with just, it's not rude for you to walk away from that person in that moment.
Yeah.
Because them sucking your energy out is rude. So like you being like, I don't have time for you right now. I'm going to go over here and continue doing what I was focusing on doing. You have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to have that energy kind of transferred to yourself.
Yeah.
And the more you engage with that person and allow them to feel more and more negative, you're not going to change them, right? You can't, in that moment when they're feeling that way, it's very, very difficult to change somebody's mindset and change somebody's approach to the day once they're already in that sort of zone. It's going to be hard for you to have a conversation with them and flip it around. So you just have to accept that they're where they're at in that moment, and then choose a better time to come back and maybe be like, hey man, do you need to talk? Like, are you okay? Like, are you too busy to talk to me right now?
No, it's funny that you brought that up. That's totally that's like the number one response that people give, though.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
It comes out of my mouth more often than I would like it to. Not super often, but sometimes it comes out and I want to punch myself in the throat. Like, as the word's coming out of my mouth, I wish I could take it and stuff it back in.
Kick my own ass.
Yeah, it's the worst. It's up there with like conversations about weather.
Yeah, that's the best one. That was probably like the number one reason why I wanted to get it with Mitchell. It's like,
oh, it's a little chilly out today. Yeah.
Weather's turning around today. Seasons are starting to change. Yeah. That's what happens.
Yeah.
We're in Canada.
Yeah. It gets a little bit weird with that. So I think it's okay. I think it's okay for you to walk away from that and allow yourself to focus on what you want to achieve in your day. Because at the end of the day, back to our goal setting thing, when you set those goals, you don't achieve the goals just by setting the goal. So the whole SMART goal idea, I think, is cute, and I think it's helpful in creating those targets that we're going to set our sights on moving forward. But I don't think it's beneficial in any way other than that.
Yeah.
Right? SMART goals.
Yeah, so we'll talk about a few specifics about. What do you want to talk about first? We can either talk about what we think the best ways are to actually set that goal. So like what the goal would look like, what's a poor goal. And then we could also talk about kind of the next steps after setting a goal, whatever you want to call it, like that action plan or whatever.
Yeah. I want to hear what your approach is to setting goals.
All right. Well,
we've talked about it before.
Sure. So I'll start with some of the things I've learned with how to actually set a goal, what that goal looks like, how it sounds. I think that's very important. So again, I'll use the example of fitness because that's what we can relate most to.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the most common type of goals that we'll see are these very, very abstract goals. It might be something like, I want to lose weight, or I will lose weight, or I will eat healthier, I will stop drinking. These like very, very general, undirected goals. Like these goals that you see or hear that, and the first question that comes to my mind is, well, like, what are you going to do to eat healthier? Or what does even eating healthier
What does that mean?
So I think that's the first thing, is that you really have to be as clear as possible on these goals. So maybe a trick I'd like to use is just imagine if you were giving this goal to someone else, they should have absolutely no questions on what that goal is. They should fully be able to appreciate kind of the details of that goal. So I guess if we use the example of, we'll use the example of eating healthier or nutrition, might be something like, so I guess this is getting more so into the action plan now. I guess that's more of, I want to be healthier. I think that's more of like a motivating factor. That's not really a goal.
Mm-hmm.
So that'd be your motivating factor. And then you can go on, okay, well, like to me, what does being healthier mean? So maybe it means I have more energy in the morning. Maybe it means, I don't have these headaches throughout the day. I'm able to get to sleep at night, whatever it may be. I think you need to find, that's the next thing you need to do. I think is you need to find that one thing and identify what your primary focus is. Cause there's so many different, from such a general goal like that, there's so many different paths you can go down. So I think the next step is to, well, okay, you need to pick one of these pathways. So from there, I think then you have to develop your action plan. So look at, what do I do in a regular day that I can improve on? Maybe you're waking up in the morning and crushing a can of Coke or something.
Mm-hmm.
So this would be just like one example of a list of things in your action plan that help you meet that clearly defined goal. So it would be like, cut out that first can of Coke in the morning or whatever it may be. And then you look at later in the day, it's cut out that sugary snack before I go to bed. So I think these are the type of things that you can start to get into now that will actually, they're doable things. They're clearly defined things you're going to do on a daily basis that are actually going to help you get towards that goal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
It's a little abstract, but
no, that totally makes sense. I think what will come of that. So it's eating healthy, and it's let's say midday crash, and then your action step is to cut out that morning Coke.
Yeah.
Right. So you got that kind of 3-tier: healthy, get a headache or a crash in energy midday. You got a Coke in the morning. You feel like that is the culprit. That's the cause.
Right, yeah.
So your goal is the action to that goal is to eliminate that Coke, and then we'll see how that affects the rest of the day. I think focusing on that allows somebody to kind of zoom out and see the emotional why, or the emotion connected to why they decide to have that Coke in the morning. Like, what is it about that Coke that you're needing in that moment?
Right.
It could just be a habit, and it's as simple as that, which isn't necessarily simple to change, especially when you're mixing in 2 drugs like sugar and caffeine.
Yeah, that's kind of a separate story, I suppose.
Yeah, it can be a bit of you may experience that feeling of crashing even worse in the beginning.
Yeah.
So then your emotion is like, well, I feel worse, so I might as well just have it, not being able to see the big picture. So
Right.
why I'm going down this path is now, what can I do to improve that midday crash. We've eliminated something that doesn't necessarily solve the problem, or it's easier to substitute with something else that would allow you to maintain the same routine, which for a Coke in the morning would be to drink something cold that has bubbles.
Yes.
Right? In the morning, it could be that simple. It's kind of like
a Diet Coke.
Yeah. It's something a little bit different. I know there's a bunch of water bottles at the gym ripping around. They're like the water bottles that make your water carbonated.
Oh, I've seen those.
So I don't know, something like that, and a small black coffee.
Yeah.
Maybe you're still getting the caffeine, you're still getting your bubbles. It gives you something as a substitution that's an action that's going to replace, and then with that replacement, you get the fulfillment that you're like, oh man, I actually did this, right? Like I eliminated that Coke. I'm feeling better. I'm accomplishing things. And then hopefully that's enough to kind of push that snowball down the hill, and just going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And you're taking on more and more challenges to yourself. That discomfort and that struggle I think is very, very important. It doesn't matter what it looks like for you, just to kind of push yourself into that little bit of discomfort, because then you're getting a little bit better in some way. I think a lot of people can shy away from that. And it can look like anything. It could look like hot yoga. It could look like that physical struggle. It could be walking. It could be getting up 15 minutes earlier.
Yeah.
That can be dreadful for some people, myself included. So it's just, you got to find something that you can do. Because the action is what's going to eventually change or help you move towards that goal or the target that you're setting your sights on.
Yeah, that's good.
It can be a little bit. It's tough to talk about in a way because there's so many different
there's
approaches
so many different
to
possibilities.
it. Yeah.
I think the fitness goal is an easy one to relate to. It's an easy one to dissect.
Mm-hmm.
I think I maybe should have used that example instead, but something like, so I'll just give you one of the goals that I had was to qualify for CrossFit regionals in, I think I had 2022 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a goal of mine. I was a competitive athlete for a long time, so I love that competition, that ability to kind of push yourself to the limits. Kind of, I loved that struggle that goes on in your head of, just one more round, just one more minute. And I, of course, loved fitness. And so I felt this was a great end goal for me. I knew I would love the process. I would love the journey. And again, I felt it was realistic. So there's all these things of, the motivation behind why that was a goal isn't quite as important, I think. But from that, I tried to develop a realistic action plan and almost some goals within that goal, which would make that achievable. So backing up, I said, okay, this is the end goal. What's a goal before that one that if I meet that one, that means I'm on the right path to that ultimate goal. So this was, I think it was top 100 in the open or something, maybe 2 or 3 years prior to that. So then I back up again. Okay, so now what do I do to achieve this? And it was, okay, well, I know I have some major weaknesses that I must work on. One of those being gymnastics. If I improve gymnastics, I know that I would have a better chance of achieving goal 1 and therefore achieving goal 2. Okay, improve gymnastics. So what are these goals to improve the gymnastics? Well, within those gymnastics, I know that I would need to improve, for instance, bar muscle ups, handstand push-ups. You go down another tier. Okay, what do I need to do to improve these 2 movements, which would improve my chances of finishing high, which would improve my chances of qualifying in the future? And then it's, okay, maybe I need to add 10 minutes of extra skill work to each of these movements 2 to 3 times per week. So by that point, you're getting a little bit closer to these actual definable steps, I suppose, that through your call it analysis, whatever you want to call it, you know that based on your plan that you've sat down, you've spent some time on, you've actually thought about, you've focused on, you know that taking these identified, clearly defined steps and achieving those on a weekly basis, monthly basis, whatever it may be, you know that completing that, okay, check that off, I'm on my way to my goal.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's another nice way to look at it, I think, is that tiered approach. Just keep backing up.
Yeah, I love that. It has to be that way.
Yeah.
It's kind of like if you have a ladder, metaphors left, right, and center for this one, because it's the only way I can explain it.
Yeah.
A ladder going up to, say, a treehouse. Treehouse is 200 feet up in the air. You can't jump 200 feet. Your goal is to get into the treehouse.
Yeah.
Are you going to stand on the ground and just continuously jump up and down like a crazy person? Or are you going to... So this ladder has no rungs yet. It's just 2 posts going up. You got to take 1 rung, stick it in, take 1 step up, grab the next one, put it in. If we get greedy somewhere in the middle and then try to skip a few, put a rung up, and we can't reach it, you're going to jump, you're going to fall, and you may fall all the way back down the ladder to where you started. So giving yourself those focuses, like, I'm going to work on this skill 10 minutes, 2 to 3 times a week. You move back a little bit more. What does that actually look like? And that's the first rung of the ladder.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
And then you do that you do 1 day, there's 1 rung. 2nd day, there's your 2nd. 3rd day, there's your 3rd. And you just keep doing that over and over again until you get up.
And I think a lot of, maybe not all, but I would say the majority of goals have ways to be quantified.
Mm-hmm.
So in this example, it could be, so I know step 1 was to improve gymnastics. Specifically, it was to improve handstand push-ups and bar muscle ups. So you would just have a simple test that you do every, 2, 3, 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Do a couple back and forth, see how fast you can complete them. There's your variable. You can track that over time. If you're climbing the tree, how high can you get that week?
Right.
How long does it take you to climb the tree? So I think a good goal, I don't know, I can't think of, again, it's so hard to go through a bunch of different goals all at once and think of the different factors, but I'm trying to think of one that wouldn't actually have a good goal that doesn't have a quantifiable measure. I don't know, I can't think of one.
Me neither. I don't know if you can.
No,
I think that's the whole idea of setting a goal that is your the something that's quantifiable.
Yeah, and I think so. I guess that's probably another place where a lot of goals go wrong. So it's like, I want to be healthier. Well, you can quantify that in some ways.
Yeah,
that means you have to define it.
That's right. You have to find that way to measure your success or failures, and then how to adjust those.
So that's a good question. How do I measure this?
Yeah. If you can't measure it, then it can't be your target.
Yeah.
The emotions and stuff, you can't really measure those so much on a scale. They're more of a feeling, right? The emotions that go along with achieving that goal or anything like that. So making a goal like, I want to be more positive, kind of going back to that one at the beginning, like that's not a thing.
No.
It has to be more measurable than that. What does that mean? What does that mean to you?
Yeah.
What things can help you get that feeling of positivity?
Hey, honey, do you think my thinking inside my head this week has been more positive on a daily basis?
Yeah. Goals are tough, man. Yeah, goals are tough. And I'm sure a lot of people, when they see the title of this episode, they can be like, oh, yeah. Magic formula for setting goals and achieving them 100% of the time. And I'm sorry that we've disappointed those people.
Yes.
But we could lie to you and come up with this magical system that's going to work 100% of the time and be like, you just got to hustle, bro. What does that even mean?
Then sell it to you online. $10.
That's, I think Instagram motivators have a very positive impact on a lot of people's lives, but that's my main pet peeve with them. It's like telling someone they have to hustle is not helping anything.
I think if anything, it has the opposite effect.
Yes, they're standing on the ground jumping.
Well, yeah,
up and down.
We seem to live in a time where working 20 hours a day and hustling, bro, and never sleeping and just getting back up and I'm back on the grind, bro.
Oh man.
I think, well, obviously some of the stuff we've already talked about, the side effects of that, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we see it every day.
It seems to be admirable in this day and age.
It's super sexy.
Yeah.
Just gotta hustle. Gotta grind.
I think, my opinion, sexy is fucking lighting a candle, winding down, throwing on the blue light blocking glasses an hour before bed, getting ready for that beauty sleep and climbing on into the fart sack and getting your 8 hours of sleep or whatever it is.
Yeah,
but hey,
totally.
maybe I'm living a fairy tale.
Hey, that's your happy place. That's your hustle, bro.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, we see it every single day where it's a weird thing where it's like people are making themselves sick to make money, and then they're spending their money to get healthy.
Yes.
And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
But that's the hustle, bro. And those, I watch this a lot because I'm interested in it. I'm just interested in how these motivators, how their story adjusts and changes over time, because they're human beings just like us, and their targets change just like ours that we're talking about. Their goals change. Their perspectives are going to change. I've listened to these people on different podcasts, and sometimes the podcasters and the hosts of the podcast are really good at calling these people out on their bullshit. Mm-hmm. Be like, no, I disagree with you. And they don't know what to say in that time. And then you look at their posts 2 weeks later and their tone has changed a little bit.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is these people are human too. And when they're called out for being silly and being kind of overly positive and just, it's nonsense what they're putting out there. When they're called on that, it forces them into a little bit of reflection, and then their stories start to change a little bit. And I've seen it happen in multiple different occasions. I'm not going to mention any names because I don't want to crush anyone's dreams if you guys really look up to these motivators, but you got to look up to yourself. That's the thing. Like you're the one that at the end of the day, you can watch as many inspirational things on YouTube or Instagram that you want. If you're not actually going to do anything, if you're not going to put that first rung in the ladder and start working your way up to that treehouse, then you're just standing on the ground, jumping around like a crazy person, and you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, motivation's a funny thing. You can only do so much on motivation. It only lasts a certain amount of time.
It's the feeling.
Yeah.
Right? Any
Once
emotion
those
is
chemicals
temporary.
in the brain kind of go back to normal, motivation don't.
Yeah. It's not quantifiable, kind of going back to that. Like you can't measure, there's no scale for motivation unless you're like, hey man, how motivated are you today on a scale of 1 to 10? Everyone's going to tell you 10, unless they're that busy person. Maybe they'll tell you 1. I don't know.
Motivated to go home to bed and never wake up.
Yeah, it's like, fuck me, man.
Well, that's fine. Make sure you light your candle before you bed.
Yeah. I think what I want people to get out of this episode is your goals are yours, and it's going to take time, and they're always going to change. And that doesn't mean that you were wrong necessarily.
Yeah.
But I mean, 99.9% of the time we're more wrong than we are right. And when you kind of circle back to things that you thought in the past, like I'm sure if I listened to this podcast in 10 years, I'd be like, this guy's a goof. What's he talking about? He's talking about nonsense.
Definitely.
Right? Hopefully that if I don't feel that way, I think I did something terribly wrong in the next 10 years. I hope that I look back on this and I'm like, that guy,
his perspective was
whack.
You just have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
I can definitely work on that personally myself. Being okay with changing the sights of your target.
Yeah.
That's something I'd like to work on.
Yeah. Changing the target will just change how you're
still pointing in the same direction though.
Yeah, whatever that is for you.
You're not going to hit all those people standing behind you.
Yeah. It has to be yours. That's the big thing. It's a lot of times if somebody is working with me as an athlete, I'll see this happen a lot. It's like, for example, your goal was to make it to regionals in 2022.
I think that's what it was. I'd have to check. It's up there on that bulletin board.
Regionals aren't even a thing anymore.
Put a big old cross across that a few weeks ago.
Like, if your sole purpose in life was to make it to regionals in 2022, your life is over right now because...
Coming at you, Greg Glassman. Talking to you.
Because they're not even a thing anymore. It's crazy talk. So if you were so caught up in that, and before you talked about making it to regionals in 2022, your language was, I'm a competitive person. I'm happiest when I'm working towards a goal.
Yes.
Like, those are your driving forces, and those are the things that are still acting right now. Those are the things that are still allowing you to find fulfillment through the process of fitness, whatever that means to you at that time. At that time, the fulfillment was to qualify for regionals in 2022. Now that regionals aren't a thing anymore, it's something different, but you're still able to hit those
absolutely
kind of pleasure points for you
to
allow you to continue to be happy in your process, because your sole focus wasn't the target. It was all the things that would eventually get you to that potential target. And if you miss the target, you miss the target. Your sights are just going to move to something else and you're going to be fine.
Yeah. In my opinion, that's sort of one of the problems I think with, this is it's related, but setting a weight loss goal.
Mm-hmm.
Those ones it's okay. I just think that they have a lot of possible negative side effects, because you hear a lot of bodybuilding show competitors talk about this. It's like, once you reach that goal, well, then what? Like, are you going to feel like a failure once you put that weight back on? Are you always going to be thinking and wanting about that one time when you were super, super lean and you were at that certain weight? So I think that's another consideration.
Mm-hmm. Just being cautious of identifying as your goal.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
It's popular to identify as something.
Yes.
Especially at this point in history.
Yeah.
We like to, in all this equality, that is the focus, that is amazing. It's also causing all these little pockets of identification as different things.
Right.
And that's causing you to separate from people and separate from each other, which I think is not an awesome thing. It would be the same as if you identify as your weight loss goal, you're not going to find any fulfillment in that. Even if you hit the goal, even if you're successful in that, it's still not going to feel
right. Yeah. Awesome. Now, don't get me wrong. I think that can be a great intermediate goal to something. Like, maybe you want to, if you just want to have more energy to run around with your kids, or you want to do like a triathlon with your dad or your son or whatever, and you think a necessary step to get to that is to lose a certain amount of weight, by all means, that's fine, I think.
Yeah, it's a box to check.
Yeah.
You got to check that box off.
Yeah.
Again, goals are tricky. Man, they're tricky. I think the best thing to do is to talk about it kind of like we are right now with whoever your friends, family, significant other, with yourself, writing it down in a journal form, journaling about it, getting it out there will get the juices flowing a little bit, and we'll kind of, maybe not in that moment, like, I'm sure we're going to have realizations after this conversation in like a day, 2 days, and be like, oh, maybe this kind of, I can do this, I can do that. But allowing that to happen is super, super important.
I think goals are also something that people seem to be a little bit secretive about. I know I used to be that way for sure. And I think it should be the complete opposite, if anything.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think I've definitely heard of some, these life coaches or whatever it may be, someone who provides guidance on setting goals. I believe they often do suggest to make a goal, to officially set a goal, you have to make as many people as possible aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's something to be said there.
Yeah.
Don't be scared to talk about your goals.
Right. Be public about it. Use that can be a very positive use of social media as well.
Yeah, that's a good point.
If you're not using it for the pat on the back, like good job. You're using it as more as like, this is a accountability system for me.
Right.
I've seen people like, I want to go to the gym 3 times a week, and then they'll check in to the gym, so it like pops up on the news feed.
Yeah.
And people see that, so that's part of it, I think, which could be a little bit tricky. So you got to be careful with that.
Yes.
But if it's for you and it's a way for you to track your consistency and be accountable to whoever is following you on Instagram or to your friends and family on Facebook, it can be used in a very positive way.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
But goals are tricky. They
are tricky. And I would like to give one simple
master plan. Yeah.
But it's just, this is one thing where it's not like that.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
I think, anyone who's telling you that they have the master plan to setting goals is probably full of shit, unless that person is over the age of 90.
Yeah.
You know what, though? We'll have a few minutes left here, but that brings something up. Something we definitely have to do on one of these podcasts is bring in some really old dude or girl and just like pick their brain on everything. Like that'd be so cool, I think. Yeah, it would be fun. Imagine all the stuff you would have seen. Just, I don't know. That stuff's really cool to me. Blows my mind. Even about like living through the world wars. I find that stuff super cool. The elderly are underappreciated, I tell you. Yeah. I love going over to my grandparents and talk to them. Yeah. So wise. Yeah. And just know, I feel like you just hit an age where you just don't care what anyone like you. And we say that we don't care, but it's in some place we still do. Yeah. And they actually don't care, and it's amazing the stuff that comes out. They're just like, "This is how I feel, and it's based on my experience and my perspective. And if you disagree with that, I really don't care." Yeah, it's just great the way it is for me. Yeah. You quickly realize that when you see a 78-year-old man walking down the street in jeans and no shirt in September or April. Just go into a big box gym change room. Yeah. There's some power stances going on in there, and some confidence that you just can't achieve without that experience. A couple Captain Morgan stances going on in there. Yeah. That's the best. Yeah, we'll do that for sure. We're going to start getting some guests in here. We have some ideas for some people. Yeah. For different topics and things. This was just one thing that kept coming up in conversations with people that we were talking to. Is goal setting and kind of our current perspective on it. And I think that's just what we gave. That's just the best that we can do right now. And if it wasn't exactly what you guys were looking for, that's the best we have for you guys right now. Check back in a few years. Maybe we have a little bit more. Yeah, but please do keep sending us your ideas and suggestions for future podcasts. Yeah, super helpful. Because those are the ones that we talk about. The last, I don't know, 2 or 3, I think, have all been about suggestions from people. So everything but episode 1 was based on Instagram polls and questions. Yeah, so keep it rolling. It's pretty good odds right now, so now's the time to throw in your suggestion before we're big. Before we make the big time. Before we go on the Joe Rogan. We're the future, baby. Before we're on the Joe Rogan. Yeah. All right. Oh, I finally got that, whatever it's called, taste out of my mouth. How do you pronounce that thing? Rhodiola. If you want to wake up in the morning, just take a little shot of that. It'll get you going. Oh, it gets you. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Yes. Catch you next. So some quick contact. You can find me on Instagram at brainignition_Chet. Yeah, I'm Instagram at Sheriff Academy. Yes. You can find us both at Westland CrossFit. Absolutely. Literally any day. Yep. Just pop in at any time. And additional contact information is always in the description of these podcasts and in the bio. Right. Yeah. Please remember to give us a review, rating. Let us know what you think. Yeah. Thumbs up, thumbs down. See you next time.